right, thanks for being patient, everybody. So again, my name is Bill Evans with Awareness Technologies. Thank you for joining today. The point of these webinars is always to kind of educate some things about the interface and the software that you might not be using, just to make sure you kind of potentially can get more value out of the licenses that you have. As always, if you guys want to reach out to me directly afterwards to discuss your specific account, you can certainly do that, whether it's a tech support issue or a functional feature issue that I can help with. I can facilitate any of that, so just let me know and I'll give you my contact info at the end of the call. If anybody has questions along the way, there is a questions interface in the GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar UI, so you can just go ahead and type it in there, and then I'll address them at the end. All right, great. So let's get started. So I think there was an agenda. A couple of the things that we're going to talk about is how to automate the software or build out alerts, how to assign productive versus unproductive activity, how to increase employee productivity using the software, looking at the alert log or exception log, and I'll kind of show you some things that we've just recently updated that I think make a big difference in how you use the software. All right, so hopefully you guys can see my screen. So this is kind of what it looks like when you first log in. We changed this home page, and the point of that is now that initially it's giving you kind of a series of graphs that might tell you different things. They might tell a different story quickly. It's kind of a top-down view, and you know, initially it's predetermined what these graphs are going to be, but there are 6 different ones to choose from. Some of the examples: risky websites by user, and again, you can hover over them to see who's going to the most, say, risky websites, who's being the most unproductive, how much flagged activity has taken place, and flagged is referencing, you know, these flags, which I'll explain in a minute. How many people are causing alerts. You get the idea. So it's just a quick ability to see some different graphs. And again, these can always be sent to you in a report that actually they come embedded in the email itself. So you don't even have to log in to get that data. You can actually have the graph sent to you in the email, and you know, open it up on your smartphone and quickly see what's going on. Maybe get a daily recap that way if you wanted to. And it can always be blown up if you wanted to do that as well. So down below is the alert log. What we're calling the alert log, and basically what it is all of the most recent alerts or notifications that have taken place. What that would consist of would be alert words, so specifically a list of words that you've specified and have said, hey, I care about these things. I want to know if somebody types them, or I want to know if they appear somewhere. They can be if somebody visits a certain type of website. So if somebody visits, say, an adult site or a sports site or a job search, like a job application site, somebody might be looking for work while at the job. So any of those things you can get flagged as well as behavioral activity. So you can actually set thresholds and say, hey, I want to know when somebody sends more than 4 webmails per day. So you guys use Outlook. Sure, people can use webmail, you know, for personal use, that's fine, but you know, maybe a couple is fine, but more than that maybe shouldn't be okay. So maybe that would be a concern. Anyway, if somebody sent more than 4, you might want to look at those webmails. This is a way to have the software do the work for you and kind of pull these things to the surface. If somebody sends any webmails with attachments, if somebody adds any files to a USB drive, if somebody logs in after hours, if somebody visits more than 5 blocked websites, those are all just examples of what could be behavioral notifications. Again, you're choosing the data type and you're choosing the threshold. If somebody types less than 50 keystrokes in a day, you know, so it's obviously going to depend on what their job is and what that they're expected to do, and also what you care about. Some things could be fine. It doesn't matter if they use webmail, and some places have a strict policy on it. So anyway, the idea there is that there's also a flagging system, and you can see here, not everything is flagged. I think eventually we'll probably get to a point where everything starts out with a flag. And what this gives you is really the ability to not only see where things stand, but you log in as a manager and you can immediately come here and say, hey, what are the things that have happened most recently that I've said I was concerned about, if they were to happen, who did them, and then what are we going to do to either take care of it or address it, or any of the above. So many things will have an automated flag given to them. So this red flag would be, if somebody visits one of those concerning websites that you've specified, an alert word, a behavioral notification, they will automatically end up showing here in the red flag area. And so then I could click on this activity. I can then say, okay, this is a red flag. I can see that it was a program that somebody was using that I was concerned about. You know what, Firefox, it's okay. I know they use it for their personal finances. So I can actually take this flag, click on it, and then change it to green. And then it would turn green, and I'd know that this is now something that's been handled. This next one, it's a website visit. It's to a website with an alert word or a type of website that I said I was concerned about. I can see that Jim went to, looks like he went to probably his personal email, sent an email. Again, if this is okay, fine. If not, I could leave it red if I wanted to, and then I could, print it, save it, bring it to a meeting, archive it, whatever I wanted to. I could add notes. I could say, Jim visited personal webmail, looks concerning. Ultimately, these notes would stay archived in here, and then when I print this out, say to a PDF, those notes would also show up in the archive itself. Now, if you're a larger company and you have multiple users or multiple admins that are handling this software, you can delegate this stuff out. So you could say technically, hey, Sarah, you're managing this group of people. I need you to go in there and knock out everybody who's either red or yellow and either turn them green or bring them, bring those printed out or put them into a report and bring them to me so that, we can handle them as necessary. Obviously, the point here is that it's showing you what's happening and there's an actionable kind of element to it. So you're saying, well, now that we've addressed this as an issue, is it something we've said is okay, or is it something that's going to need further attention? When you see things like email, it is actually going to show you the content of the email. Who was it involving? When did it get sent out? What computer were they using, etc. And then also the history of this activity as well. So anyway, that's kind of the idea of the alert log. What's happened most recently? It's a great first place to look. Initially, it's going to show everybody. You can always change that to show just a group of people, just one person, just one computer, and then a date range as well. So you can get specific as far as your filters go and what you're looking at if you wanted to. You could print the whole thing to PDF or download it to a CSV or an Excel spreadsheet easily. But yeah, that's basically the idea there. All right, so moving on. So that's the alert log. The next view is what's called a chart view, basically just a top-down view of different types of data points. You can choose what kind of graph you're looking at. You can hover over them to see what makes up that part of the pie or bar graph. There are many to choose from. These are just some initially chosen ones, but you can click on the add or edit. Realize that there are many that you can choose from. So yeah, so that's the idea there. These can also, again, get sent to you via email on a daily basis, weekly basis, however often you want. The next view is what's called a user view. This is going to be where we come to build out this logic of productive versus unproductive behavior. It's not something we predetermine for you, and that's because everyone's companies operate differently. Everyone's in different industries. Everyone has a different number of employees, different teams. So there's so much variance there that we let you decide the logic of what is productive versus unproductive. As you put people into groups, whatever application, or I shouldn't say application, because there's productivity for both programs, applications, and websites, but whatever you choose as productive versus unproductive for websites and programs, whatever person that you're doing that for, it will apply to their entire group. So if you have 20 people that you're monitoring, and 5 of them are admin, and the other 12 are on a sales team, and the other 3 are a finance team. The 12 that are in the sales team, if I go into Andy and he's in the sales team, and I create what I choose is unproductive activity for him, it will apply to the whole sales team. That way, if you wanted separate settings for one person, you can put them into their own group, or you could put them into a different group, and then that way, what's productive for them might be unproductive for somebody else. This initial view is basically just a top-down of all of my active users for the day. It's a one-day snapshot. You can sort any of these columns. If I wanted to look at number of alerts top-down, I could do that. If I wanted to look at just the alerts, I could click on this. It would tell me what they are. Basically, it's telling you what computer do they use, when did they log in, log off, how active have they been, when were they at their computer throughout the day, how unproductive have they been. Looks like alerts and unproductive activity kind of go hand in hand for the most part. Their latest activity, and you can see a red or a green. Obviously, red in this case, unproductive, green, productive, gray, undefined. And then a screenshot view. So if you are running continuous screenshots or screenshots on a specific program or website, you could come back and view them here. Just to show you what that looks like before I show you the productivity piece. Basically a scrolling, a rundown of what was the activity and then corresponding what was on their screen at the time. So getting back into this productive versus unproductive piece, the best place, so I could change this right here. If I change this to green, and I was saying google.com is productive, it would change that for again, everybody in Michael's group. In this case, we're looking at all groups, but we could, specify what group if we wanted to. But the best, because this is only one activity at a time, the best place to go is actually clicking on the person's name. And it's going to bring me into their own page. It shows me 2 things. One, a couple of graphs that tell me different things. Alerts that have been triggered. Websites, whether all or unproductive only. And applications, whether all, unproductive, or we have a list of pre-defined risky applications. Places that we know are hazardous, places that really have no place in a business kind of work day, that kind of thing. So anyway, that's the graphs, and then below that is basically an activity log that's specific to Michael. So not just the alerts, but all of their recorded activity. So basically, if I wanted to see a chronological rundown of this person's entire day, I could come here and do that. I could see a couple of user behavior notifications were triggered. Went to these websites, sent this email. I can click on any of these and see the content of what that was if I wanted to. I could save it. I could flag it. And again, as soon as I flag that, say red, it would pop right over into that initial alert log that we talked about. But again, as I mentioned before, this is the best place to come to determine what you think should be productive versus unproductive. So Google, maybe that has nothing to do with their job. Sure, for a lot of jobs, it's probably undefined or even productive, depending on what they're using it for. But in this case, we're saying it's unproductive, so it's red. And as soon as you do it for one, it will apply it to all of the same activity across the board. So obviously, you don't have to go through and do this over and over again. But you have Google, Chrome. We've said is undefined. This is a risky application. You can tell because it's highlighted. Again, you could add whether it's productive or unproductive by just clicking on the square, and that's basically how you do it. So if you wanted to go through a few people, honestly, after you get everything installed, no matter how many people you have, if you even spend just 2 or 3 days kind of sporadically logging in and building out this logic, you'll find that the unproductive breakdown is pretty accurate. It really does paint a pretty clear picture as to who's spending the most time in places that you don't want them to. But if you hover over it, it'll tell you how many unproductive events. If I wanted to see those unproductive events, as I mentioned, by just clicking on it, instead of the whole alert log, it'll actually just pull up the unproductive activities. So you get the idea. And again, all these columns can be sorted top down. So if I wanted to see where is he spending, sure, these are unproductive, but where is he spending the most time? Well, he spent 4 hours and 15 minutes on Starbucks. So he was really digging into that website there. But if we do active time, say top down, anyway, it gives you a pretty quick picture as to where the bulk of the time is being spent. And then you can always change those filters up here. So if I just wanted to look at, unproductive, and if I want to look at productive activity, see like, well, what's he getting done? I could change that filter at the top without having to go back every time. And then again, in the bottom, we'll see what is specified as productive. All right, cool. So that's the productive versus unproductive. As far as how to build out some of those alerts and notifications that I mentioned to make this stuff automated, to me, the value of the software is getting things installed on the employee's computer across the board, because you will never know what's going on without having some visibility into it. You'll always have concerns of specific employees that are obvious. Sure, you'll see what they're doing pretty quickly. That'll tell a story very fast, but you'll learn things, even if it's good things, through the software by covering the whole team, and it's just a reality. You just have no other way of knowing how people spend their time without having this type of visibility. No one can just watch people's computer screen all day. So and you're all doing your own jobs anyway. So it's just what's required. Regardless, getting the software running, it runs in the background, people are doing their jobs, the software is gathering all of this information, and I think the value of our solution is that we're putting this into places that's telling you, hey, you said you care about this, here's one of these situations. Hey, somebody did this behavior that you said is concerning, here's when it took place, exactly. Hey, somebody typed this word that you said you care about, and it's pulling kind of the needles from the haystack for you. That's to me the value. It's running in the background, it's doing its job quietly, and it's gathering all of this information and intel and giving it to you so that you can take action if necessary. So as far as how to build those out, or where you would go to place one of those alerts or notifications in place. So again, data view, basically just a top-down view of all of the recorded data. You can view all the different kinds of data, and then you could group it by whatever you want. You can look at whoever you want, date range, and all the details. So moving forward from there, reports and notifications. This is where you're going to come to do two things: build out the alerts and notifications, which I'm going to show you, but also know this is where you come to build out scheduled reports. So if I wanted, just like I said before, those graphs to come to me every day via email, I'd come into reports, I would add, that's called a preset report. I'd choose what graphs I want, who is it covering, what data types, how often do I receive it, what type of file, done. And then once they're scheduled, they're in here, and anything that's sent out will show up under recent reports as well. Exports, same thing, just a little bit more detailed. So reports are kind of prepackaged. Exports are more like every website visited or every login event that took place for one person or all people, a little bit more of an archiving tool. Coming over to notifications, so you can see there are 4 different kinds to choose from. They're pretty self-explanatory. Alert word, did somebody type a word that you care about? So this is where you would add it. As far as what words would make sense, again, bad words, job search words, industry terms, people's names, competitors' names, recruiter, resume, contract, salary, anything like that. Those are basically ideas. And then you would basically add the word and how often do you want to receive notification. If it's typed, you could do immediately if you wanted to. You could do daily if you just wanted to do at the end of the day, and so on. Website, basically, did somebody visit a specific type of website? You can get notified of that. So again, you're choosing the type of website. Adult site, sports site, job search site, weapons site, shopping site, streaming media site, any of the above. User behavior, this is the one I wanted to show you because this one requires a little bit of tweaking in terms of you have to set the threshold. I think pretty shortly we're going to have some preset ones that I would say are the most common, and it's the ones I brought up earlier on. So I would say those would be more than 5 webmails sent per day. And again, think about it. Somebody uses Outlook for work. You don't care if they send 1 or 2 emails by personal email, that's fine. But if they're sending more than 5, you probably want to know what those are. If they sent 20, I'd probably want to look at those webmails and see what they are. And the software will let you do that. You will be able to see personal webmail content. And so if they're sending 20, they're almost undoubtedly reaching out to competitors. They're probably looking for a job. They are potentially siphoning company info out of their computer, any of the above. But you need to be able to verify if that's happening. So anyway, getting back to it, most common, maybe more than X number of webmails, 3, 4, 5, something like that. Any webmails that were sent out with an attachment, I'd like to see people send things to themselves through webmail. That's very common. Any USB activities, maybe they just don't ever have to do that, or they do it very rarely, and you just want to see what the file name was to feel good about it, or cross it off as this is okay or this was not okay. Any after-hours login, that's any login to the computer outside of a 9-to-5 job. Any day that they visited more than 5 blocked websites. I might just want to see what websites are they trying to get to. Why are they trying to get to so many blocked websites? Might have to have a conversation there. Maybe less than 50 keystrokes typed in a day. If their job is mainly typing, why are they typing so little? That kind of thing. So anyway, that's kind of how you build these things to show you how you do it. You should press add. You would call it something. So I would say, behavioral notification. I would add a new setting, and then I would, again, more or less than. You choose your threshold, and then you have all the different data types to choose from. So getting back to it, say webmails sent per day, perfect. And that's all you have to do. I want to add a new setting. I want to know if anyone sends more than 0 or 1 or more webmail with an attachment. I want to know if somebody visits more than 10 blocked websites. I want to know if somebody does 1 or more file tracking event through USB. I want to know if somebody does one or more off-hours login, as I mentioned. Just to show you how many there are that might be useful. Blocked websites, total websites visited per day, visits to the following website category. Again, I can do that here. Emails that contain an alert word, sent or received emails. You can even do Outlook-based things. Maybe you just want to get an idea of like, hey, my top person, how many Outlook emails do they send per day? Here's how you can do it. How many Outlook emails go out with an attachment? Maybe that gauges how active are they with their customer base. This is a productivity tool not just to gauge people that are doing concerning things, but also people that are excelling at their job and how you can use that to motivate or train others, even themselves for opportunities to improve. Screenshots, log-on events, applications, maybe minutes spent using unsupported email, that might be a concern. Streaming media, that might be a concern. Minutes spent unsupported web browsers, I think that could be valuable. File tracking events, instant messages, keystrokes, printing, so you get the idea. Maybe printed documents, more than people print, maybe their job is just to print things like very rarely. I probably want to know if they printed more than 2 things then in a day. Maybe they printed 15. I'd want to know what they're printing. They have, people generally have access to a lot of company information, and so that would be something I'd recommend. Anyway, the recipients are the people who received the email saying, hey, this happened, so I would enter, theoretically my email address. I could have multiple recipients. So you get the idea. Who is it covering? I could have this covering everybody. I can have it covering just one group of people if I wanted to. How often do I receive it? This is a daily notification. So this behavioral one is saying, at the end of today, these things took place. Again, the best place to go would really be the next day, log in, go right to your alert log. All of these notifications that were triggered would show up there, and then you can kind of manage them as needed and delegate if you had to. The last one is an agent check-in. Basically, this just allows you to say, in case a computer stops speaking to the server in over X number of days, it's going to tell you if that happened. That way you don't risk having somebody go off for 30 days and it's not recording data, and maybe it's because they reformatted their hard drive or changed their antivirus solution without telling you, or something along those lines. This kind of gives you a fail-safe to do that. A little bit of a different function, but certainly still a notification because it comes to you via email. So that's pretty much it. That's kind of the bulk of what we were going to talk about today. I hope you guys got some value out of it. I'm just going to take a look to see if there's any questions. Again, if anybody has any other ones, I do see a few here. Feel free to just type them in. I can see somebody said, are you able to see what was printed? And so, yeah, printed documents is certainly part of the software. So I'll come back to data view. I'll just explain something quickly too. So people that have employee monitoring license, if you have the enterprise add-on or the file tracking feature, you will be able to see things like webmail attachments, not the file itself, but you'll see if there was an attachment, USB activity, for files added there, files that were downloaded. You'll see an image for any printed document, at least the first page. So the enterprise add-on is an extremely small cost increase. It's only a 10% increase in license cost, and certainly worthwhile to do as far as the value that it gives you, because watching files move off of a computer is, I would say, pretty critical. So anyway, that's just a quick side note. But anyway, the reason I mentioned that is for this printed document piece. If you have the enterprise or file tracking feature, it will not only tell you the name of the file, it will give you an image of what was um, printed as well. So coming down to printed screenshots, just to show you what they look like. Oh, there's no data there. That's great. So let's just go back to, say, printed documents. I think there'll be some images here anyway.
What browser are you using?
Oh, you know what? It's just Michael Scott. That's right. Why? Let's do all printing. Michael didn't do printing. All. Okay. I guess printed documents aren't right in our test drive account right now, but just know that just like everything else here, it's going to show you what date and time it happened, what computer did they use, who was the user, what was the name of the file that was printed, did it have any alert words. Alert words actually wouldn't show up for a printed document, but again, if you have Enterprise, it would also show you an image that you'd be able to open, print, save, copy, bring to a meeting, whatever you needed to do. So that's the idea there. Again, with this grid of data, the data view, this is going to be a great place to come. Say I wanted to see all websites that were visited by one person. Click on websites, group it by domain. I can quickly scan through. This is for everybody, but I could scan through and say, hey, are any of these concerning? I want to know who's going to E-Trade so much. I can click on that, quickly see who that is. I can sort active time top down. See that it's mostly Jim and Stanley. So yeah. So that's the idea there. Let me just see. There was one other question. Somebody said, can you prevent the documents from being downloaded? It's a great question. We can't stop something from being downloaded, no. What we can do is block websites and we can block programs. So if you know where that's coming from and that's a concerning space, you can block that program completely. You can block it by schedule if you wanted to just block it 9 to 5 while they're Monday through Friday. You can block websites if you know that they shouldn't be getting stuff off there. That's part of the software as well. It's not going to say I want to block a document or some document if it has this word or any of the above. We do have a license called Data Lock, which does take the file tracking space kind of one step further, and it allows you to say, hey, if somebody moves a file onto the USB drive and it does contain this word, I don't want it to leave the computer. Yes, that is available. That's called the Data Lock license. It's certainly available. What it really gives you control over is USB and Outlook attachment. It unfortunately doesn't have the ability to stop webmails from leaving with attachments that trigger those things. It doesn't have the ability to stop, say, Google Drive or FTP sites, anywhere where you're uploading things, to a third party kind of thing. But if you don't have control over your USB, you can lock it down completely using Data Lock, or you can say, I don't want them to be able to upload things to USB if it has this word, or even if it's this file type, like CSV files. I don't ever want people to move CSV files. Okay. Or XLS. Maybe you're a design firm and it's your design documents. Then you could block all file types of your design document to be removed via USB. That could be very useful. So I hope that answers your question. All right, great, guys. Well, let's see. I had one other here. Let's see. Does it coexist well with antivirus software? Oh, there's a few here, actually. So it's a great question. There's I would say a love-hate relationship there, but in general, as long as you set the antivirus exclusion correctly, it will not quarantine the software. We have support people on standby to help with that. We don't have any problems with existing antivirus companies really of any kind. Even most recently, the only one that we had an issue with was Bitdefender. We've even most recently developed a solution for that as well. So yes, I would say we work very well with it, making sure that if you are having problems there, let us know. Our support team will get involved. We'll make sure the exclusions are set correctly. That way it won't quarantine the software. Any monitoring software that exists today will have some challenge with antivirus in the sense that antivirus is going to see that as malicious. If you're capturing things down to the keystroke, it's going to want to quarantine the software. So again, with the exclusions that we recommend, it won't have a problem there. And so just please reach out if you're having any challenges, and we'd be happy to help with that. How do you disable the USB port so that they can't copy the files? Again, you'd need data lock. Once you have data lock, you can easily go in, create a new policy, USB, set it up to not read or write. You could set it for one person. You could set it for all people. That's all you have to do. Can you prevent printing and downloading to the USB drive? So just like I just said, yes, only using data lock though, not with employee monitoring. Employee monitoring with file tracking is only going to tell you if that happened and what the name of that file was. It's not stopping that from happening. So that's the answer to that. That being said, seeing that these things are happening is usually more than half the battle. Kind of knowing that they did take place is usually the pretty critical part of all of this, and then being able to take action if necessary. But if you don't have control there and you want control, then yes, data lock should be a great fit for being able to say, hey, we need to shut this down, or I can't have people moving stuff that has this word, and that's what that would give you the ability to do. Okay, great. So I hope you guys got value out of this today. Again, the point is really just to show you some things that you might not be using and try to help you get the most value possible out of the software that you have. Please reach out to me directly if you wanted to talk about anything specific with your account or any questions in general about software. So again, my name is Bill Evans. Direct line for me is 203-307-2941. Or you can email me directly. You probably have it from this invite, but you can also email me directly at B for my first name, Bill, and then my last name, Evans, EVANS, @awareness-tech.com. I'd be happy to assist with whatever you need. Thanks again, guys. Hope this was helpful and hope to speak with you all soon. Have a great day.